you're someone who was open to learning. You're someone who was had this recognition that you had something to learn, and then you started engaging in it through being a moderator of this show, through having conversations with your coworkers and friends and family, and so the issue comes, right, where in this space there are a lot of people who believe that they understand the dynamics of race. Now you became aware that you did not have a good grasp on it. Now, I guess my question to you is, before you had that realization, did you think you understood race issues?
Yeah, that's a great question. Did I think I understood race issues? I suppose so, because I wasn't like looking up more information on race issues. So I think I took a pretty surface level, receptive view of what the racial issues are. And I guess in doing so and not seeking out more information or not applying more critical thinking to it, I would have accepted it. So yeah, I think before this, I would have just accepted a lot of those narratives and thought that I understood it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I guess it's similar to like, philosophy. The more you know you don't know, kind of thing. So as I'm beginning to learn more, I'm definitely seeing how I really don't know a whole lot at all. But yeah, I suppose through an acceptance of kind of main themes and main narratives, and also just having like a self-reference criteria that that and maybe that ignorance, just those factors combined, had me in a bubble that I was comfortable being in, and I wasn't really pressed to understand more. And I think that's another big problem with sharing that the empathy and having like an ignorance to racial topics. I think it's a barrier because some people might think it doesn't affect them, or some people think of it as policies and not emotions, and not like my fellow human beings, my best friend, or my my mentor coworker, or somebody else like that. They don't humanize the issues. I think the media is good about politicizing them and turning them into policies, and turning the policies emotional, but dehumanizing the information and the context. So yeah, I think there's a lot of problems with it, and I've certainly I felt like I've been duped, and I've duped myself about not needing to investigate stuff further. Yeah, is that kind of?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's clear. I haven't really heard anybody express what you just expressed. And I've been having these conversations, like I said, for 3 decades. And I have yet to have someone, kind of, I guess, acknowledge like their past self pre-woke, right? Like pre-becoming aware of these issues. And then after, a lot of people, they like to skip over that transition, and not really think about it. For me, when I'm ignorant of something and then I become knowledgeable about it, not only do I think about the knowledge that I've gained and how to utilize that, and like moving forward, what I need to change about myself, this or that, or my thought process or whatever it is. But I also really dwell heavily on why I believed that I had the knowledge in the first place, or why I believed that I didn't need to gain this knowledge, or why I was ignorant of something in the first place, right? Like, so I feel like that level of critical analysis of oneself is something that is significantly lacking in the race context when people are thinking about it. Especially when people come to the realization that, they didn't understand these issues before. Now they have a better understanding of them because they've either read a book or seen a video or heard the show or whatever it is. But I really wish more people would stop and think about, well, why is it that it took this long for me to cross over that line? Like, what is it that was stopping me from becoming aware of this, of the plight of my fellow Americans who are living, around me, who are part of this country here with me, experiencing a totally different life than me, that I was totally unaware of, that we're supposed to be learning about in our educational programs, that I thought I had a handle on, but now I'm realizing not only do I not have a handle on it, but like there's this entire universe of thought that was absent within my own mind, that is relevant to me and my life. Like, for me, having that understanding and that realization, which can happen in many contexts, right? It's not limited to the race context, but it terrifies me. I remember the first time I even thought about it was when I was a child. It was something stupid. Like, I was listening to a song and I heard the lyrics of the song for the first time, like, clearly. And I realized I thought the lyrics were something totally different and unrelated to what I was hearing. And then I looked it up just to verify that it was like what I thought. And it was. And I had made this total mistake. And I was like, and I was thinking about all the different mistakes I made that were compounded by that initial misinterpretation of the lyrics. Like, I went to my friends and I talked about this song and I talked about the song and I talked about the lyrics of the song incorrectly. So then I'm passing forward my ignorance onto somebody else, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a stupid, simple example, but like, it does get the point across, right? Which is that tiny little misinterpretation by me, it can travel quite far. In the race context, there has been a purposeful, intentional miseducation, not only of American citizens on the issue of race, but, through the media, through the laws, through politics, through academics, through economics. All these different vehicles have been utilized by mostly white people in power who have tried to suppress any kind of discussion about how race intersects with all these different contexts. And you can see that backlash happening now more than ever, where we're trying to move this conversation forward and we have the power to move it forward in a way that we never have before. And you can see that people are not, a lot of people are not happy, right? Like, they're fearful. They feel like, they're next or something like that, like I think somebody wrote in a tweet either today or yesterday to me that they were afraid that there were too many people thinking about revenge. And
what kind of people?
Yeah, good question, right? I don't know.
Just anybody, I guess. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the woke mob or whatever. I don't know. But like whatever people are saying these days. But I just think that ultimately it's so funny hearing all these arguments, because every single argument that people make against progress in the racial justice space is an argument that people who are fighting against racial injustice are also making. Like, because that's the current situation for us. And so it's really hard to argue or to discuss, because people are like, well, we're afraid of this happening. And then I'm always like, well, this is happening. Yeah. And so
it has happened. It's still happening. It's just not happening to you. And you don't want it to happen to you, but in pushing that off, you're okay with it when it happens to other people.
I mean, implicit in that statement is them saying that they are okay with, the way things are. And I don't think a lot of people are comfortable admitting that to themselves. They delete that little connection there. And they get mad when people say that you're promoting racism or you're promoting white supremacy or you're supporting it by having that perspective, because ultimately that's where it leads. That's where that path leads. Is you will not be fighting against this stuff. You're not going to be educating yourself. You're not going to be educating anyone else. In fact, you may be miseducating other people. You may be spreading that ignorance, like I was doing with the song lyrics, right?
Yeah.
And that's just going to make it that much more difficult for us to unravel this generations-long struggle that we've been engaged in.
Yeah, it's also with the song lyrics. I think that's a good kind of metaphor for this, where you can't really admit to being wrong about it because you were so committed to these other things, and you publicly express these other things, or even privately express these other things, and it's an ego blow to go back on stuff that you were so committed to. So I think that a lot of what we're talking about does have to do with ego, and egos that have been deliberately stroked by forces outside of ourselves. So,
well
so
said.
yeah,
You're like a regular guru now. What happened, man? This transformation is like amazing.
It's I've had this kind of self-awareness, just I've never applied it towards race because I never thought to apply it, and I never thought to scratch any deeper than what was presented on the surface, I suppose. I've traveled internationally. I'm in a multiracial marriage. My child is biracial, so there's a lot more emotional connection to stuff that this affects. I've had no problems applying that kind of stuff to my personal passions, or trying to analyze like an individual person and trying to see like are they a good friend to me? Are they a bad person? Are these political figures that are presented in one way, actually that way? How are they being presented? Who's presenting that? I have no problems like applying this critical thinking to a lot of other things. And I'm practiced at it, but I was not very practiced at applying it towards race issues. And I think it was just kind of a storyboard that I'm used to seeing, that I also just didn't really think about because my brain didn't work that way. Now that I see you as a black man and not my friend, I see you as a black man who is my friend. There's so much more context that's added to that. Whereas before I would just see you as my friend.
Thanks for watching. For access to the full-length conversation and all of the 2-hour-long unedited conversations that I've had on race, click the support link in the description below. Thanks for your support, and see you next time.